Kia ora everybody and welcome to A Computer Side Chat. So today I decided to take a bit of a departure from the more serious tones of the previous two chats and talk about something a little more fun, cinematic universes. And not just Marvel and DC, but a few others as well, and actually taking a look at the model itself and some of the great things that can come from it. And of course, I'm wearing a very appropriate shirt, Avengers. Doing good. But before I do go into the chat, I do want to say that as of the time of recording, Endgame has only come out a few weeks ago. I know a few people are being a little less restrictive on spoilers, so am I, but if at this point in time you haven't seen Endgame, I suggest you wait until you've seen it. Otherwise, feel free to watch on. So, looking at the idea of a cinematic universe as someone who does take quite an interest in storytelling, it's not new. It's not new at all. The idea of having a shared universe for all these characters. I mean, comic books were doing it way before. And, of course, we've had plenty of monster movies where the monsters had crossovers. But I do think it can make for some fantastic storytelling, especially in today's cinema, where you have characters developing and growing not just within their own circumstances, within their jurisdictions, with their own challenges, but shared challenges, bouncing, changing with each other. I honestly think that's brilliant. I think it's a great way to tell a story, and while it might not be new, I think a lot of good can really come from it. And I think a lot of filmmakers have recognized that, and I think that's great to see. So, in looking at the model itself, there is a lot of potential for it. However, when I started thinking about it, I wasn't sure what specifically you would be able to fit into this model, and it got me thinking, what can? Well, I think the superhero franchises, it's easy. It's an easy transition because, I mean, it's simply going from the page of a comic book to the silver screen. So it's nothing new, but it's still pretty awesome to see. However, when I have thought about some of the other franchises, for instance, there's the Monsterverse that has been coming forward with Godzilla, King Kong, etc. Part of me has been going, how on earth is that going to work? And I guess the reason I've been thinking there is because I'm really stuck on the Marvel kind of storytelling. Like, you wouldn't be able to write monsters developing off each other in the same way as the superheroes and villains of Marvel, or DC for that matter. But then I take a step back and I go, okay, well, get out of that mindset first and foremost and actually say, how would this work? Because again, all these cater to very different audiences. So what might seem as a bit odd in my case, in my view, maybe not exactly workable, might be dead on perfect in another case. And again, I have seen other circumstances where I think franchises can be really good for a shared universe. Take the Lego movies, for instance. I think that the Lego movie did a really good job establishing a kind of universe and then getting a glimpse into all these kinds of different universes. Batman. The Lego Batman movie. Perfect, loving satire of Batman. Lego Ninjago. Personally, I preferred the cartoon, but I've heard that the movie is okay. And I think there can be some more great potential from from these Lego movies as well. But again, as I've been looking at the idea of the cinematic universes, I've also come to the realization that it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-size-fits-all for every single audience. There are different ways of telling a story. And so begins the part about me gushing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and just what I've loved about it in relation to how it's adopted the Cinematic Universe model. I mean, simply, it's been pretty awesome. Just seeing how all these characters grow, not just within their own circumstances, but with each other. I've loved seeing superheroes helping each other to grow and develop. Iron Man and Spider-Man, for instance, I have absolutely loved that when it's come to the MCU. It's one of my favorite bits. But all the Avengers and the Guardians, it's fantastic. I love that kind of development. It's really great to see. And of course, I think the casting has been brilliant. I mean, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans? Yeah, Chris Evans. Chris Pratt, Tom Holland, Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, some fantastic actors have been brought in there to bring these amazing characters to life, and I believe have done them so much respect. And I think that's brilliant. So liked all plenty of the overarching stories. I mean, the some of the great parts about, say, when Bucky came into the picture, Cap having to deal with the possibility that his friend might be gone in the Winter Soldier, to have him being a central point of conflict in Civil War, the breakup of the Avengers, and all the different twists and turns we saw with the character's development. Thor is another great example. I think Thor's development arc over the course of the MCU has been really good. I think Ragnarok was a great turn for him. I'm slightly biased, being a Kiwi, and that being directed by the awesome Kiwi there's Taika Waititi. I did like the comedic turn that it's taken with Thor. It's just, it's great. I think it's great. And then, of course, the arc with not just Infinity War, but also Endgame. And this is where the spoilers come in, people. Last warning: no, don't go any further if you're not going into if you don't want anything to be spoiled for you. Anyway, I thought Thor was brilliant, having to deal with the great failure of not being able to stop Thanos from using the gauntlet in the first place once he had all the Infinity Stones, and the way he let himself go in his grief. I thought that was brilliant. And then when they did the time heist, and just the look on his face when Mjolnir finally comes to him after talking to his mother. I've seen a lot of my friends who said they love the message that no matter how low you think you've sunken, you are still a great person. And also a line from Black Widow comes to mind: not judging yourself by your worst mistakes. Again, I can and already I can feel semblances of my first computer side chat coming back. Don't judge yourself on your worst mistakes. You can still grow from them and make yourself a better person from them. I thought it was a brilliant message. And it just, again, the person who wrote that article about the fat-shaming Thor, I mean, piss off. I mean, it wasn't meant to be a joke. That's his grief. That's him letting himself, that was trying to deal with the pain of having failed to stop Thanos. It wasn't meant to be a joke trying to dehumanize fat people. Some people. Just some people. And again, I've loved a lot about the MCU. I think the arcs were done brilliantly. It's not 100% spotless, but again, I think it's been absolutely fantastic. And while it seems that we've reached a kind of a peak with Endgame, I'm still excited for what else is going to come from the cinematic universe. So, that's all I've got to gush about the MCU. a great example of a cinematic universe with great storytelling, amazing character development, not just in their own jurisdictions, but working together, growing with each other. I think that's been brilliant. And it's something I would really like to see with the DC Cinematic Universe. Well, let's talk about the DC Universe then. Now, as a bit of a superhero geek, I'm not necessarily biased in either direction, like some people are. I remember there was a meme around when Thor Ragnarok came around, and it was asking Jeff Goldblum whether he preferred Marvel and DC, and it's just like, who cares? They're both comics. I'm actually much the same way. I like good stories and great characters wherever they come from, and I don't think you have to commit yourself to one camp or the other. Just like what you enjoy. And yeah. But yeah, with regards to the DC Cinematic Universe, I really do want it to succeed, because I do love a lot of DC characters. I would love to see... I think a lot of people would have loved to see the Justice League in the same vein as the Avengers, bringing more characters to life, bringing stories to life. Again, there's brilliant potential within the DC Cinematic Universe, just like there has been with the MCU. However, I don't necessarily think it's all been lived up to its potential. Well, clearly it hasn't. But it's getting better. It's definitely getting better. I think the casting has been pretty good. It has been largely pretty good. Henry Cavill as Superman, Ben Affleck as Batman, even though they've both gone. And if you're wanting to know who I think should replace Ben Affleck as Batman, my pick would be for Karl Urban, who is the guy who played McCoy in the Abrams Star Trek movies and Éomer in Lord of the Rings. I think he could be a brilliant Batman. Plus, he'd be a Kiwi, so that'd be awesome. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, fantastic. There's been some... And even though I would make some criticisms, I think Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is good casting. Storytelling, again, not as great. Of course, save Martha! Honestly, that is just... who came up with that brilliance? And there's a lot of criticisms that can be made, but there is still potential for some real good from the cinematic universe, and I do want to see it succeed. So, I do think it has started making steps in the right direction. Aquaman I thought it was brilliant. I loved how it's now made Aquaman less of a joke superhero like in the olden days, and yeah, Jason Momoa, you have done brilliant, mate. And I know there's a bit of controversy going around Amber Heard, but I thought she was really good as Mera. And I haven't seen Shazam, but I've heard great things about that one as well. So it does seem like that the DC Cinematic Universe is starting to find its footing. But I do think, obviously, it can do better. Some of the things I would really love to see, bring the Teen Titans in. I think it would be awesome to bring in the Teen Titans, not just from well, not necessarily have them come in from the Netflix universe, but I think it would be great to have the Teen Titans in there. Maybe a little bit of a homage to the original animated series. I loved that growing up when I was a kid. Again, I think it would be great to see more and more Justice League characters come in, and again, to see the relationship between Batman and Superman grow. The pacing hasn't exactly been good. I mean, Batman vs. Superman also included Doomsday, and I'm just like, really? That soon? But again, that's growth. I think could be great for all of the Justice League. And despite all the flaws that the Justice League movie had, I thought there's some there is room for some great stuff for this universe, but I would really want to see some more of the great memorable villains. I thought Ares, Ares in my view would probably be the best villain that's been in the DC Cinematic Universe. Steppenwolf, in my view, was terrible. Lex Luthor, meh. Maybe it would be good. Maybe he can be good in a future movie, but you never know. But again, I am open to the DC Cinematic Universe. I do want it to succeed, but again, I do think a lot needs to be done if it needs to catch up with Marvel. But my hope is that it does, because I know the DC Universe has some great stories, and I want it to be able to show that brilliance to the movie-going audience, movie-going public. Well, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'll see you next time.